What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Hair Mistakes That Age You Faster, Subscriber Edition. That doesn't suck. Just saying. Okay, so if you are new to this channel, we are going to talk in just a second about what this whole series is about. But if you're a veteran, then you know how this system works. I'm going to throw some photos on the screen here in just a second. I'm going to introduce you to an awesome lady named Jill. What you're going to do is you're going to take a look at those photos, you're going to comment below while I explain to everybody else what this series is all about, and you're going to let me know what you think you would do with Jill's hair. Make sense? You know how this goes. So while I introduce you to Jill, you get down in the comments and let me know what you think. Okay, folks, meet Jill. Now, if you're new to this series, this is a series where I actually have subscribers from this channel that send in photos of themselves, and then I walk through any potential concerns or mistakes that are happening with their hair right now, and explain to you and to them how they may be able to get a more youthful look. Many times, these are small incremental changes that make a huge impact. Now in this series, I also show you on Photoshopped versions of them exactly what it would look like if they actually took my advice and made those changes, as well as I show you at the very end kind of a curveball, different ideas for different things that they could do that may look great on them. And today, I'm not gonna lie, you're not gonna wanna miss this curveball. It's pretty good, if I say so myself. Okay, so with all of that said, should we dive into some mistakes? Yeah. That's not one of them. That's not a mistake. Yeah. Now, mistake number one is actually not having quite enough layers in the front of her hair. Now, one of the things that Jill mentioned in her email is that she has a lot of fine hair. And if you're unfamiliar with this texture, maybe you don't have this texture of hair, it has a tendency to get very big and bulky and actually can get very heavy. In my decades of doing hair, it's proven to be actually one of the harder, in my opinion, textures to get actual true volume and shape in, which seems crazy because people think fine hair, you're just gonna have tons of volume. Yeah, big hair is one thing, but volume in the right areas is a different story. Now, when people sign up for this particular series, I have them send me in a very specific group of photos. And one of the photos that I ask for is, I need a straight on headshot of you with your hair styled as normal, and one with your hair pulled back off your face. Jill sent me one with her hair pulled back off her face, and then she also sent me this one. Made me believe that it's probably pretty normal to what she actually does, which is tucking her hair behind her ears. Now, the concern with not having enough layers in the front, especially with the texture like Jill's, is that when you go to tuck your hair behind your ears, you're gonna get a lot of bulk right at the ears. And that's going to compound this triangular effect that I constantly talk about. It's gonna add a lot of volume in the sides around the cheeks, but not give enough volume up in the temple area where we wanna create it. Now, mistake number two kind of piggybacks off of mistake number one in that we're talking again about layering. If you look at the profile here, there's just not quite enough layering in the back or internally of Jill's hair. Now, the concern with this is, again, speaking about this fine texture but having a lot of it, like I said before, it can get very bulky. And if you notice, the amount of bulk in the back or in the nape area of Jill's head actually takes away from Jill. It brings the eye down versus lifting the eye up. And the most important thing is that there's so much hair here, and it ends up really focusing the emphasis or the eye on just the amount of hair that's here. It becomes a bit overpowering. Now, on a quick side note, if I can, to what I just said, there is something that I think is very important for people to understand. I always say that hair should emphasize you, right? Not take away from you. It shouldn't be the point of focus. It should be part of the overall package. And I think a lot of times people have a tendency to focus so much on what their hair brings to the table that it can become kind of a situation where it's overpowering to them as a human. It's similar to, say, a wedding. On that special day, you don't want people to look at you and notice any one thing in particular. In my opinion, you want people to look at you and think, oh my gosh, she is stunning. You want your dress, your makeup, you want your hair, all of those things to work together cohesively to create one larger package, which is simply enhancing your beauty, not trying to take all of the emphasis away from what, in my opinion, is the most important part of that package, which is you. Make your hairstyle part of the overall package that emphasizes the things we want to emphasize about ourselves and brings more focus to you and enhances you, but not the thing that stands out so much that it's the only thing that people notice. Does that make sense? Okay, now mistake number 3 is that Jill has no bangs. Now, some of you that are quick probably caught on to the fact that, wait a minute, I just earlier said that she always tucks her hair behind her ears. Why would I suggest bangs? Justin, you have lost it. You are insane. Okay, well, you might be right. There is a high probability that I am insane. But with that said, I have 2, in my opinion, very important reasons that I do suggest bangs. Now, the first thing that we talked about with the layering in the front was that the lack of layering is creating too much volume when she does tuck it behind the ears. So if we leave the front long enough to actually tuck behind the ears, there's still a concern of that volume being present. So at this point, if we're going to take it short enough to take that bulk out, then we're likely going short enough that it's not going to fully tuck behind the ears. And at that point, some sort of softness around the face, and I don't mean a full heavy bang, but some sort of softness around the cheekbone and eyebrow level, in my opinion, would be a very striking look on Jill. Now, the bigger reason for this is that if we do address the back with the layering, what will typically happen when you layer hair like that to take that kind of bulk out of the nape is that it has a tendency to push hair forward. And when it pushes hair forward, if we don't have that front short enough, then even though we've shortened it up, the minute we add the layers to the back to address mistake number 2, we are actually creating again mistake number 1. So addressing mistake number 2 is going to force our hand, if you will, a little bit on lightening that front layering up a little bit more and kind of pushing us into the realm of a softer, longer bang to mitigate the concern of those 2 points kind of meeting in the center right behind the ear and creating that bulk again. Okay, mistake number 4 is the color. Now, the color isn't completely off, but it's just a little bit too warm. If we actually cooled that blonde down a little bit and added a little bit of richness and depth to the overall color, in my opinion, it would really add a lot of richness to Jill's skin tone and create a lot of depth in the overall shape. Okay, I am fully aware that this audio has got to be kind of atrocious. That is not quiet at all. On one hand, I want to kind of film here and talk to you a little bit, but on the other hand, I know how you guys love good audio or loud things in the background. So here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna move locations, but while we're talking, I'm gonna show you a little bit of this so at least you can see it. I can't not, come on. Okay, if you're new to the channel, you might be wondering, why am I taking this random guy's advice when it comes to hair? To which I would say, that's a fair question. My name is Justin Hickox. I've been doing hair professionally since 1995. I am trying not to die right now. But on this channel, I like to take you on adventures while I teach you about hair. So there we go. If that is something that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Every Tuesday I bring out a brand new video, and yeah, there you go. So let's get back to some video. That view doesn't, yeah. You veterans know what I was about to say right there, don't you? Okay, so let's dive into suggestions and actually show you what these ideas would look like on Jill if she decided to take my advice. Now, the first 2 mistakes were all about layering and where we create volume and all of that. So I'm going to show you those 2 at the same time because there wasn't really any way to Photoshop this in a way that showed you them individually in any kind of format that would make you understand it. It just kind of wasn't working for me. So the first 2 mistakes were about where we create volume and, more importantly, kind of where we're taking volume away. So if we take some of that bulk out of the front and we lighten up the back around the nape a little bit to remove some of that bulk, here is what that would look like. Okay, now from the front, what you can see is there's really not a big change. And to be honest, that's kind of the point. The point here wasn't to create a ton of volume because that's actually a little bit about what we're working against. We're trying to create volume in the right areas. Now, on top of that, if you look at Jill's face shape, she doesn't need a ton of volume. Again, she just needs it to be in the right areas to accentuate the things about her face, cheek structure, bone structure, etc., that we want to accentuate. So having it a little bit closer actually works really well for Jill. Now, when we flip to the profile, it's a bit more dramatic. Now, the funny thing here is I didn't add volume really in the crown. What we did was we took that volume out of the nape, and in doing so, it creates the illusion that there is more volume in the crown. But more importantly than that, it helps to start lifting that eye up again instead of pulling the eye down. And even more importantly, it brings the focus back to what's important, Jill. Okay, mistake number 3 was all about bangs. Spoiler alert here, guys. We're gonna move on here, but don't worry. In the curveball, which I am so excited to show you, you will see what bangs looks like. Yeah, it's kind of awesome, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, and mistake number 4 was all about the color. We talked about how it was just a little bit too warm for Jill's skin, and if we actually cooled that color down just a little bit and added some depth at the roots, it would give it a lot more richness and overall movement and texture in the shade. Now, one of the things that Jill also said in her email was that she gets her hair colored and trimmed every 8 weeks. So maintenance isn't a concern to me here. This is all about what's just going to function well for her. Now, if we cool that color down and we add a little bit of richness and depth to the roots, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see, adding the depth helps to give the shape a little more movement, as well as helps to frame her face a bit more. The cooler tone complements her skin tone just a little bit more and gives her a little bit more of that kind of youthful glow, in my opinion. So now, the part that you've all been waiting for, well, I don't know if you have, I have been waiting for, let's talk about curveballs. And I'm not going anywhere. We're staying right here and we're getting to it. Here, I said we're staying right here. We're staying right here and we're getting to it right now. Okay, so there was one other thing that Jill mentioned in her email that I was stoked to see. And that was that she said, I'd love to go edgy if you think I could. But right before that, she said she wants to look feminine, but doesn't want an average 65-year-old haircut. Jill, I think I've got you covered. What I really wanted to do with this curveball is push that edgy envelope a little bit. But at the same time, what's really important in my opinion is that we marry that edginess with a little bit more of a polished look. Because when I look at Jill, I still see a very polished look. And to be honest, I actually really like the combination of an edgy look with a more polished look. It's, again, like I've said before, a little bit of that kind of yin and yang. So, this is one option that I think would look amazing on you, Jill. Now, keep in mind, the photoshopping of the front view didn't look as great as I would have liked it to, not kind of as natural as I would have liked it to, but I want you to pay attention to the overall feeling and shape. Now, for a second, can we talk about how amazing Jill looks in bangs? I think she looks incredible in them, even with the poor photoshopping. It really draws more emphasis to her eyes, as well as helps accentuate her great cheekbones. The profile on this photo really does the justice to me. I love how it's short enough, but at the same time, still long enough to have that softness. It's also a shape that doesn't require a lot of volume, so even if you don't heavily style it, the shape would still work great. The fact that the sides and the nape are super short allows for both a more edgy feel as well as the darker base color gives the overall look a lot more dimension. The cooler tone on the blonde also works better, in my opinion, for Jill's skin tone. But one of the things I love most is how the top, being longer, kind of hangs over the sides and allows for softness as well as the ability to get tucked behind her ears without adding all of that bulk that we were talking about from the earlier mistakes. So for me, this overall shape is a huge win. And honestly, I think it looks incredible on you, Jill. So I don't know how comfortable you're going to be going that short, but to me, I think you should try it. Now, with all that said, we all know that my opinion only matters so much. I'm more interested to hear your opinion. So tell me what you think. Comment below and let me know. Should she go short? Or should she stay where she's at in the length range that she's at and just kind of take some of the other suggestions about reshaping it? Or do you have a totally different suggestion? Hey, come on, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to hang out here. And I'm not going to lie. There's an edge right that you can't see right here. That's terrifying. And I might leave. I heard once somebody say, you're not afraid of heights, you're afraid of dying or falling. Yep, both. Okay, so you have a fantastic day. We will see you next Tuesday. Okay, it actually makes, I gotta go. This is, yep, nope, yep. Enough, yep. How do I forget how to stand when there's a cliff there? You gotta be joking. It's not like I can't stand.